hello, everybody. I've got there's Boaz. You're supposed to see me first. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We got Boaz live in Israel, and we're going to see him. I'm excited. I am Dr. Randy White, Randy White Ministries, and this is my good friend Boaz. Excited to have all of you. Let me say that I'll watch your chats and take your questions, and if you've got those, if you have a question you want to go to Boaz at the end, go ahead and put the word question in first. That'll help us to spot it there, and we'll take that and be ready to go. But we do want to welcome our friend Boaz Shalgi. Welcome. He sits on his porch in Galilee. Man, we are jealous. Tell us the weather. Tell us what's going on. Tell us how things are looking but before we get into the nitty gritty. Save the bad stuff for a moment. Tell us the good stuff of life in Israel as it is, and then we'll get into, obviously, we've watched the news. We know that things aren't as great as we want them to be. As a matter of fact, I would have been there twice now already since October, had it not been for all that's going on. My good friend Boaz Shalgi, welcome. Glad to have you.
I'm very glad to be here, Dr. White, my very good friend, and I want to thank the audience, everyone who's listening. You said I should say a few good things about Israel. That'll take me about 3 seconds to do, so there's not too much of that. But yeah, we appreciate family time together. Obviously, nobody's working nowadays, so we get more opportunities to see each other, to spend time together. And also to enjoy the beauty of Israel when there's no one here. Sometimes, you just don't see the beauty because there's millions of people, and now there's nobody, and, you see things differently.
I'm sure that's very true. So tell us, just out of curiosity, you live up in the north, Kibbutz Gonin, and that is, I don't know, 15 miles from Lebanon? Is it even
miles.
that? How much did you say?
10 miles.
10 miles, okay. 10 miles from the Lebanese border, not far from the Syrian border as well. Of course, Hezbollah is up in the north where you are. Fortunately, they've stayed on their side of the border. But just life in general, you're near, what's the name of the town? The seven...
Kiryat Shmona.
Kiryat Shmona. Thank you. I was interpreting it in my mind. So you're near Kiryat Shmona, which is a decent sized town. Tell us, do people go to the cafe? Do they go to the grocery store? What's everyday life like?
Oh, no. My daughter Danielle just opened a cafe in Kiryat Shmona, the town that you've mentioned, and she worked for maybe, 2 months. And then the war broke out and it's gone. So there's no businesses whatsoever. Nothing is open at Kiryat Shmona other than maybe one grocery store and the police that's still there. But other than that, out of 25,000 people living in Kiryat Shmona, more than 22,000 evacuated. So it's a ghost town pretty much.
Wow, and so it's one of the most sizable towns in Galilee, if I'm not mistaken, in northern Galilee. Certainly, I think Tiberias would be bigger than that, and I don't know. Is there any other place bigger than Kiryat Shmona?
No, not really. Not in the Upper Galilee. Very, lots of very small communities like ours. But you're right. In this region, Kiryat Shmona is the biggest city. Yeah.
Yeah. And ghost town. Where did these people go? You say they evacuated. Did they go to Jerusalem? Did they leave the country? What happened to them?
That's pretty terrible because all of them are refugees in their own country, and some went to the Sea of Galilee, occupying some of the hotels over there. Some to Tel Aviv. Some all the way to Eilat in the south. Now this is crazy in a way because what you want to do is be safe and have a better life until things get better. But what happened is that you take a family of, say, 5 people, you put them into one room, sometimes 2 rooms, and you can imagine what it's like to be with your spouse and your 3 little kids sometimes, in 50 square meters, or even less than that, that's pretty tough. There's a lot of, um, appeals for divorce now, violence in the family, things that we've never experienced before because of the so much tension in which they live. And according to our news here, they will not be back before June. So not easy.
Yeah, and I suspect for most of these a huge financial burden, right? I mean, you don't just get up and go live in a hotel for free, and you've lost your income. So, you're in the tourism industry, obviously, and I assume the tourism industry it's totally shut down. And you mentioned your daughter in the restaurant industry. So much of Israel works on tourists, whether it's a local restaurant that may not have a lot of tourists or may have a lot of tourists, but even at that, everybody's making money on tourism. So how are people surviving financially? What's going on there?
It's one of the most difficult things right now, other than the safety of people. Um, Finance, that comes second right away. And the thing is that there's a major problem with people in Israel in general that were hurt by the war. I mean, some are not, but if you're a cab driver, you'll still work. If you're a doctor in the hospital, you'll still work. But like you said, if you're in the circles of tourism and stuff like that, then it just dropped from 100 to zero in one day. And this is already 4.5 months that there's zero income, especially if you're self-employed. Government promised all kind of incentives, but right now, 4.5 months into it, I have not seen even $1. So I don't know what's going to happen. And to be honest, it's even worse on the mothers who are at home and their husbands are in the frontier for 4.5 months, and all of them are people that were working hard, and there's just no income. So a lot of what we're trying to do here, even as a community, is to help these families that became almost like single, family, single mom family, and do as much as we can, because there's no much, if at all, that the country can do right now. And we also understand that because this whole thing got us into a debts of billions, it's 4.5 months. That is a lot of money in addition to everything else that comes along with it.
So you're here. You were talking about these young families and whatnot. Are you speaking specifically of reservists? Men under what 40, 45 years of age that are called into active duty and leave their job, leave their family, and
That Exactly that, because for the young soldiers, that this is part of their 3 year service. That's one thing, but for the reservists, which are actually the main force of the army, I want to remind you, 400,000 reservists were recruited into the war. That means that hundreds of thousands of families are behind, where sometimes the mom was not working at all because she has little kids, or maybe part-time job, and the main income of the family comes from the father, and he's not there. So that hurts.
yeah, I've noticed just following on social media and visiting with y'all, you and your wonderful wife Maggie, who's probably even more wonderful than you are.
It
She been making sandwiches and whatnot. Are these for soldiers' families, who the community effect of trying to take care of each other in this time? Who are you taking care of?
Okay, so you ask about what's good in Israel nowadays, and so to be honest, right now and serious, it is about the togetherness, the Jewish togetherness. You see that no matter how the government functions or dysfunctions, it doesn't matter. People help each other in just every aspect of life. So yes, my wife Maggie was making sandwiches in this kibbutz for all the thousands of soldiers that are near us and don't always get decent food on time. And others like myself will have shifts protecting the community and trying to also recruit some money for our equipment here. Last time, we had our Zoom. We were able to buy this wonderful drone, to protect the kibbutz in many ways. And yes, I have my WhatsApp group with soldiers that were friends of mine that we served together, but also the young soldiers are entering this group. And so we see it all the time. Hey, let's help this guy. Let's help this family. This wife, her husband is injured. Let's make a donation. So everyone feels that they're responsible for everyone else in Israel. And that is awesome.
Yeah, that is. Now, obviously, Israel just came out of the pandemic, like the rest of the world did, and the pandemic itself hit Israel pretty hard in terms of the lockdowns and the closing of the borders and all that took place there, which affects Israel far more than, of course, it would affect the United States because it's such a small country dependent upon others coming in from the outside, unlike us. So, having just really, I guess, recovered from that and now into this, societally, the ripple effects, as one person said, all the things that are going on, which was worse, COVID or the thing you're going through now? Which has been harder? Which has been more pressure upon you and your neighbors? What do you think? Are they apples and oranges?
Well, kind of, because it's hard to compare, because in many ways you can say the pandemic was worse because it lasted 3 years, and I don't see any given scenario that this war is going to be even close to that. So it's going to be shorter. But then again, all the hundreds of young boys and girls that we lost, in the battlefield, that's like worse than anything to us. And I was hoping to come today and talk, in a good mood and good spirit, but just a couple of hours ago we received the information, which is classified. By the way, what I'm telling you now is not even published on our television yet, but from Elijah's unit, my son's unit, 3 soldiers were killed last night, and some were terribly bad injured. He's okay, but it just happens every day. And this catastrophe will be announced very soon on our news. So, this is worse than the pandemic. This is worse than anything in terms of what it does to your heart. Just to see all these 18, 19, 20, 30-year old, people with families, without families, some that have left, pregnant wives behind. Kids will be born to a father they never knew. Others that were engaged, twins that both got killed. I mean, terrible, terrible stories. So emotionally, to me, this is worse.
Yeah, I would think so because there's so much fear on. Is it going to be my son? Is it going to be my daughter? Is it going to be my neighbor who is brutally killed in one of these war skirmishes that has to go on? So now, why don't well, let me ask one more question just about the society there right now. Is there any place in Israel where life is kind of going on somewhat normally in Tel Aviv or in Haifa or in Jerusalem or one of the bigger cities? Are things going on, or is it pretty much the entire country's closed
No,
down?
no. The places, communities like ours that are close to the border, then yeah, life is crazy here. I don't even know if I'll be able to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know if I'll be able to finish this interview before, there's going to be a rocket attack into here. So here, life is crazy. But yeah, if you go south to the Sea of Galilee area and then towards Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and the center, life is kind of normal over there. But again, this could change in a split of a second because the border with Lebanon is heating up. And if that turns to a whole out war, then also the entire Israel will be part of the non safe places to be in. So it can change in a split of a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, why don't let's shift to what is happening in Gaza. Of course, began on October the 7th, and suddenly and quickly, and by October 8th, you're in the middle of a war that
Yeah.
still is going on brutally to this day. Uh, Give us whatever updates you can or you know that kind of tell us what's the status of the war. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Uh, is
Don't talk about
there?
tunnels.
Yeah, I should not say tunnel, should I? And if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, shoot.
Yeah.
But it's is progress being made? Is Hamas going to exist after this? Is Gaza going to exist? Tell us what you can.
All right. I'll tell you what I can, and I hope that after that you'll know how to disregard a lot of things that you hear on your news, because I listen here. I have so much free time to American British media, and like, what are they talking about? So let me tell you this: Israel is now engraving history. And what I mean by that is that what the Israeli army is doing in Gaza is unprecedented in any war, I would even say in history. What is being achieved there, no one expected or anticipated. And I'll tell you this: 4 months into the war, there's 14,000 Hamas terrorists dead. There's about 12,000 of them injured, and the rest of them are hiding like rats in the tunnels under the ground. On the Israeli side, I don't know the exact number, but about 260 soldiers. Now, to us, every soldier is the world. But if you just talk about being professional, to get into Gaza, to go to an away game, so to speak, and try to hunt them in the tunnels, above the ground, below the ground, within people, inside hospitals, and eliminate nearly 30,000 and lose 270, that tells you that we are doing a phenomenal job over there. Gaza is pretty much destroyed. And so one thing is clear: there's going to be no Hamas when this war is over. Gaza is going to have maybe 10% of homes and buildings that are not damaged by Israel. And a whole new era will begin where Israel will control Gaza from a distance, which means we can go in and out whenever we want to eliminate any rise of terrorism over there. And after what we've done to them and still do to them, I doubt it that anyone will raise their fist against Israel in the coming 20 years.
So I guess that is one bit of good news there. Are you saying you foresee a time in which travel and tourism and safety in Israel will come back to somewhat of a normalcy and even better?
Yes, I think that when this is over, it's going to be, a landslide, because, like I said, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, when we're done with them, Lebanon is going to look like Gaza. I mean, I'm telling you now, if it's all recorded, watch it in a few weeks from now. And after that, they'll understand, Israel is not to mess with. All the generosity that we displayed in the past, that's gone. And we're now speaking Arabic and not Hebrew or English, their language. And that means power. And if power doesn't work, you need more power. And that's what we're doing. So the answer is yes. However, what pains us is that the American administration, and I don't want to get into politics, makes it very hard on us. I mean, just to hear Biden saying yesterday while eating ice cream that by Monday we're going to have an agreement, ceasefire, they were like, what is he talking about? Hamas has already rejected everything that was offered by the United States, by France, by Qatar, Egypt, whoever was there. How in the world something is going to happen on Monday? Nothing is going to happen. But like I said, when this is over and tourism will be safe again, you're going to see masses like never before. But up until then, we'll have to survive and hang in there. That's not easy.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to miss that breaking news right there, ladies and gentlemen. As he did say, and I want to dig into this, that this thing's going to move to Lebanon. So will it? Obviously, you can't predict the future. You're like Amos, neither a prophet nor the son of a prophet, right? But is it going to go to Lebanon because Hamas is going to force it into Lebanon, or because that has to be taken care of in order to bring any lasting peace? What's going to, if you could predict the future, how is it going to trigger and end up into Lebanon?
All right, there's two options. One is diplomacy, the other is violence. The chances for diplomacy are about 5 to 7%. 95, 93% that is going to be a war. The reason is not Hamas. The reason is that as we speak, there are 120,000 Israelis that have left their homes, being refugees in Israel, but they're not in their homes. And there's no way that there's going to be any end to this situation where 100,000 Israelis are no longer here. Who's going to live here? Who's going to live in Kiryat Shmona? Who's going to occupy all the kibbutzes where I live or nearby? If not the Israelis coming back, that's going to turn into Arab land pretty soon. So the Israeli government made it very clear, and the American administration knows that if you can succeed convincing them to withdraw back to where they were supposed to be according to the resolution of the Second Lebanon War called 1701, then fine. But if not, we'll just make it happen because we will provide safety to our citizens coming back to their homes. So it's inevitable. You don't have
Okay.
to be a prophet for that.
Yeah. Okay. You just have to know a little of the facts on the ground, don't you?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, because you fought in the was it first or second Lebanese war? Did you say first?
Second,
Second. Okay. So the result of that is what did you say? Resolution 1701. Explain that in layman's term, just briefly, and why that's going to force Israel to enforce that resolution.
okay, so the resolution is what ended the Second Lebanon War in 2006. That's when your president was George Bush, and he was great, and he gave us all the freedom and liberty to do what we had to do in Lebanon. The war ended when Hezbollah and Lebanon screamed constantly, ceasefire, ceasefire. And in the end, Israel said, okay, but you're going to have to move all your soldiers, your terrorists, not soldiers, beyond the Litani River. The Litani River is 25 miles from the border with Israel. And the number or the name that was given to this resolution is 1701, meaning that Hezbollah cannot approach the border for at least 25 miles. That's what it means. And so they respected it for maybe a year or two, but then they started, coming slowly near the border, pretending that they're farmers or UN workers and all that. And Israel did nothing. So they got closer and closer. Long story short, before October the 7th, they were on the fences with Israel, meaning that an Israeli farmer that went to the farm in the morning could actually shake hand with Hezbollah terrorists. That's how close they were. So all Israelis saying now, we don't want anything new. We just want to enforce that resolution that was not respected by Hezbollah. And if they don't do it, we'll do it.
And I suppose when you do it, that the current administration, all the news outlets in the United States and around the world will probably come and talk about aggression on Israel's part, how they're without cause going into Lebanon, pushing everybody 25 miles, and won't even bring up Resolution 1701. Is that am I a decent prophet?
Yes, you are. And this is something that I wish we had, a lot more time so I can start explaining from the basis where this hatred to Israel and the Jewish people started. But like I said, this is for another day. But I'm saying this because these days are the best days or worst days. But for the world, for people like you and your audience, evangelical Christians who love and support Israel, to understand how much the world hates us. Because look at what's happening. On October 7th, when Hamas did what they did in Gaza, right away, Hezbollah, which is a different country, that's Lebanon, started firing at Israel. They're doing this for 4.5 months already, and I don't hear anyone saying, hey, what's going on? There's a sovereign country being attacked by another sovereign country. For what? And how come we don't say anything? And how come nobody wants to stop that? 4.5 months they're shooting at us. And you're right, the moment we would respond heavily, that's when in one day you're going to see the whole world screaming, stop Israel. Israel is, practicing genocide, murdering Arabs, wanted to kill the whole Arab world. It's Israel against Islam. They're killing babies. But that will only start when Israel will start to take care of business. As long as Jews are being killed, it's okay. But I told you many times, Randy, Jews have no license to kill others in the eyes of the world.
It is unfortunate that's such a one-sided viewpoint. Tell me, you mentioned watching mainstream media from American sources. What do you see or see and hear happening in America that makes you very worried about the world or the American position?
What I feel in a way is like what us parents feel or felt when our kids were little. And we told them, don't do this. I'm your dad or I'm your mom. I know what's good for you. This will get you into trouble. And yet your kid does not listen to you. And he or she goes and does the wrong thing. And then they say, hey, dad was right or mom was right. But they already did that. And that's what I feel today. I'm saying to you, metaphorically, I'm your dad. I'm telling you, wake up, see what's happening in America. I sent you, Randy, today on WhatsApp, a photo from the subway in New York where everything inside there is free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, they say. And when you stop them and you ask them, these protesters, do you know which river? No. And which sea? Maybe the Indian Ocean? Well, not really. They don't even know what they're saying. As we speak now, there's more and more mosques being built in the United States. There's more